Good afternoon. It's the Weather Mike on a Wednesday. It's January 3rd. How you doing? I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. It feels kind of like Saturday to me. Probably because I have to go back to work tomorrow. I know. Break is over. When you drive a van for a school district, you get the breaks when they get a break. And you have to go back when they go back. So tomorrow is that day. All right, let's jump into the weather. We're getting some pretty good agreement on our East Coast. Probably you could call it a Noreaster that's coming this weekend. And we're getting probably trends on our Plains Midwest storm. And it's trending a little further south, which much to my chagrin. But it's early yet. It's early yet. I'm still holding out hope. But before we get into that, I want to show you the weather around these parts. I live in western Iowa. And this morning I woke up to freezing fog and 18 degrees. This is some pictures around the property where I live. And pretty nice, huh? It's beautiful. Now, I didn't get out there when it was 18 degrees. This was late morning. It was more like 25. And the fog had lifted a little bit. But man, it was pretty out there. Very nice. All right, we have some approaching systems. So here's what's going on around the country. We're already seeing some hazards being lifted by the National Weather Service. So around the Four Corners area, we're looking at winter storm watches, winter storm warnings, and also in Nevada, winter storm watches. Up in Nebraska, we've got a winter storm watch for some areas, and then surrounded by dense fog advisory. We had that this morning. Now down in southern Arizona, it's a freeze watch. So you know cold air is coming in behind these systems. And for California, a variety of things. We've got some high wind watches in the brown. We're looking at some winter storm warnings in the pink. And then winter storm watches further into the what do you call that, teal color. So that's what's going on right now. As always, I want to show you the three different main runs for the snowfall amounts coming up with our next two storms. And we've got you here on the morning of the 12th. And we'll see how much agreement there is here and how much things have changed since yesterday, too. So this is the Canadian model, and we'll start with the East Coast. And when we go through the GFS run, I'll show you what's expected on the East Coast because the three models are very similar. And this low is going to move right up the coast. I keep trying to point I can't do that on this map. Anyway, very heavy snow according to this model for West Virginia, Maryland, parts of Delaware into northern New Jersey, Pennsylvania, look out, New York State, look out, Connecticut, look out, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, southern Vermont, New Hampshire, and along the coast of Maine. Looks like just a bunch of snow and a lot of wind too. And as we'll show you a little later, some ice probably for Virginia. Ohio, you're getting in on this a little bit as well. The second snowstorm, this is a more southerly track on this run of the Canadian. We're looking mostly southern Kansas, or really most of Kansas. The Texas Panhandle with some decent snows, maybe up to a foot. And then Missouri back in play with the heavy stuff in southern Missouri and through Illinois, yeah, Chicago, yeah, look out, South Bend, Indiana, look out, much of Michigan, look out. And then, of course, all these storms going through the Pacific Northwest first. And so tons of snow for the Cascades and even some of the lower elevations in the Willamette Valley. It looks like it's painted in there on the Canadian. The Euro showing kind of the same, a little further north on our plain storm and a little less snow in our East Coast storm, but still getting walloped would be Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New York, a little less for northern New Jersey and for Long Island, a little less for Connecticut, but still a lot for Massachusetts, more of Vermont and New Hampshire on this solution. So this one's going to be a little bit more inland for you. And then for the plain storm, just a little bit further north than the Canadian, with Kansas getting hit pretty good, Nebraska getting in on the action, and a lot of Iowa. So a little bit of more hope for me on this model. Still very heavy parts of Missouri into Illinois, just north of Chicago, Milwaukee, look out. Green Bay, look out. Northern Michigan, looks like a lot of snow for you as well. And then the GFS, we're back south on the plain storm. But New England looking similar again. Heavy snow, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and parts of Maine. A little less on this one for northern New Jersey, but still a pretty good snowstorm for northern New Jersey and Long Island and New York City. All right, let's go to the GFS, and we'll run through this real quick. We're starting here at today at noon, so 4 hours ago, and we were getting some rain down here in the Gulf Coast 4 hours ago. Let's catch up to current time. So now we're moving into the future, and this low moving off into the Atlantic and taking its rain with it. And our first storm, this is why we have those watches and warnings for the four corners, because our low is starting to form and we're starting to see snow showers bust out. And as we move forward, now we're on the 5th, almost the 5th. One more click, we're on the 5th. And this low forming right on top of Lubbock, Texas. And then north of that is where we're seeing the snow in Kansas, Oklahoma panhandle, and rain, Oklahoma through central and eastern Texas down to the Gulf Coast. And as that low gets moving, pretty strong low now along the Gulf Coast, and we're seeing some heavy rain moving out of Louisiana into Mississippi, into Alabama, and some snow on the north side here in Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, and even parts of Missouri, very light here. But we're seeing some ice, North Carolina and Virginia. Look out for that, and even more ice in West Virginia as we get into the morning of the 6th, which is Saturday. So Saturday morning, more ice for Virginia, according to this run. More ice. That's a lot of ice, Virginia. Look out. And then it turns into heavy snow by noon. This is 1 p.m. Eastern time. Right near the nation's capital, and northern Virginia and parts of West Virginia, moving into Pennsylvania. Let me back up one if I can. There we go. And so heavy rain turning to heavy snow right here. And southern New Jersey getting heavy rain, heavy snow back in Maryland, and some good snows also for Pennsylvania. The low starts to head off the coast. So rain, southern New Jersey, pretty good snows for northern New Jersey and into Pennsylvania. And we see the winds increasing here as well. And then it goes off to sea. And you see along the coast it was raining, further inland snow, and then changing over to snow. So the closer the low is to the coast, if it goes inland, it's going to be more rain along the coast. If it's slightly more out to sea, you can have more snow along the coast. So those are the things that you normally think about when you're talking about nor'easters. And this storm is going to be cranking pretty good. Lots some good winds with it too. So exiting by the 8th, so by Monday morning, it's out of here. And Monday morning, we've got our next storm forming in the Four Corners, now moving into Texas. Well, almost. northeastern New Mexico with heavy snow coming down in Kansas and in parts of Nebraska and eastern Colorado, and then some good rains coming down Oklahoma and much of Texas into Louisiana. Look at the snow way down here at Big Bend into Mexico. There's some mountainous regions down there. And as the low gets going here, we see heavier snows busting out. This is almost the morning of the 9th, almost Tuesday morning. Some heavy snow across Missouri, Illinois, back through Kansas, Oklahoma, and the Texas Panhandle. And yes, the GFS has this taking the southern route. So those of us here in western Iowa that love snow, we'll probably see some. But the heavy stuff is staying further south in Missouri and into Illinois. And even ahead of the storm, we're seeing heavy snows for Virginia into Ohio, northern Indiana, and the northern half of Illinois. And as this low goes, and again, see how much there's going to be so much wind with this system too. So we could see some blizzard conditions in some of these areas with this storm. As it continues to crank, Missouri is going to have a lot of fun with this. Right on up into Chicago. This is the afternoon of Tuesday the 9th. Chicago getting hit hard into the The rest of Illinois and Missouri, it's starting to relax. Eastern Iowa starting to relax a little bit with lots of wind, though, and still blowing snow. And then the heavy snow moves into Michigan. Again, with wind, we're seeing a lot of wind in New York and northern Pennsylvania with snow. Now we're seeing heavy rains from Pennsylvania into the Virginias, Maryland, New Jersey. And so remember, there was a lot of snow here. Now it's a lot of rain on top of a lot of snow. North Carolina, just a lot of rain. South Carolina, a lot of rain. And so we're going to watch out for flooding concerns in this area as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday as well. And then the storm lifts off into Canada. And just for fun, look, there's another storm behind that. And there's another storm behind that. So some light snow, this one for Minnesota, Wisconsin into Michigan. Now I'm just being silly because we're getting so far out in time. This is kind of, I wouldn't say meaningless, but, just kind of a hint of what might be coming, because there's another big storm by the middle of January, and who knows exactly where this will go, but this is depicting another huge storm. So that's fun. All right, that's the GFS. And, again, I think we've got some fairly good confidence for the East Coast storm. Let's pull up the European real quick, and I'll just do that while you watch. Did I get the European? No. Let's get the European. Here we go. And we'll run through the European faster. And we'll watch as this storm moves up the East Coast. Still looking for the ice. Virginia, Maryland. Still looking for heavy snow. Pennsylvania. And then as it gets towards the coast here, this is more rain for New Jersey, but a little bit of snow at the top. And heavy snow for Connecticut and Massachusetts and even Rhode Island and into parts of New York as well, Vermont and New Hampshire, and a lot of wind with this as well. So all these runs are pretty similar. And as you know, especially if you live on the East Coast, 50 miles either way with that low is going to make a big difference on your type of precipitation along the coast. But looks like a pretty good one that's coming. And then real quick for the plains on the European, again, we're talking Kansas, a little better for us here in western Iowa on this solution, but still the heavier stuff more into Missouri and certainly into Illinois. This even has less snow for Missouri, but it has very strong winds with it still. And then it takes it off into the coast. So it's, this GFS now has lighter amounts of snow, still lots of wind, and still lots of rain for the East Coast on top of that snow. So still looking for flooding concerns there. So going back to work tomorrow, we'll see what the posting schedule looks like. But I'm going to try and do this every day after work, or maybe even during my long lunch. Oh, I don't know, sounds like fun to me. I just love weather, and I have a feeling you do too. So we'll see you tomorrow.